Hello everyone, welcome to Shorthand Battle. I am Divya and I am going to dictate you a general passage of 840 words at the speed of 120 words per minute. So be ready for the dictation. 3, 2, 1 and go. Sir, I would like to take up the most important problem, a problem which affects our own internal economy, the question of agricultural prices. I am glad that the President has made some references to it, but I am not quite satisfied with the kind of importance he has attached in his address to the most vital issue that is facing us. We are told not only by the President but by a number of our own friends here that our people are today bubbling with some kind of hope in regard to their future. And as a matter of evidence to the existence of hope, some of our friends have told us about the enthusiastic audience that had thronged to the Avadi Congress. But I might as well inform them that today there in that part of Andhra you have got their enthusiastic crowd and gatherings, lakhs of them gathering together. Is it because they see hope in the present agrarian situation? Not because of that. They are gathering together in order to vote. They are gathering together also in order to make up their mind as to which side they should choose, the communist side or the democratic side. And when they choose the democratic side for their vote, it does not mean they are quite so hopeful with all that has happened or that they are so hopeful what the government hope to do in regard to the agricultural prices and the agricultural situation in this country. But when it comes to it, they are determined to vote in favor of democracy and not to go the way of dictatorship. That necessarily means an additional responsibility on those friends of ours here who hold the reins of power on behalf of democracy. Are we quite sure that the government is doing all that it ought to do and expeditiously and effectively in order to protect the interest of our agriculturists? Is it true that there are people in our country who legitimately and naturally insist that agricultural prices should not be too high, but at the same time it is only reasonable for those of us who campaign the cause of the agriculturist to expect these consumers, the champions of consumers, to agree to pay what are known as the remunerative prices? Surely it is not contended even by the most die-hard champions of consumers that the agriculturist should go to the rack and ruin the agricultural prices should be kept down and the consumers should be supplied with food grains at lower and lower prices. That cannot be reasonably so. We find in any sector of our society, people are prepared to offer their services at less than remunerative prices, less than remunerative wages or salaries or allowances. When it is accepted on all sides that clerks should be paid decent salaries, industrial workers should be paid decent wages, and officers should be given proper salaries as well as allowances, then is it not reasonable, sir, for those of us who stand for the 70% of the population who depend for their livelihood upon what they get from agriculture to ask that they should be paid remunerative prices? But sir, actually what is happening? There was a time when the government of India used to admit that the procurement price levels which they themselves had fixed were not considered to be thoroughly remunerative. They were less than remunerative, and at the same time they insisted that the peasants should sell their food grains and place them at the disposal of the government of India at those procurement prices in the open market, which the government were pleased to consider to be a black market. Prices were twice as high, and the peasants were prevented from selling in that open market. They were forced to sell at the procurement prices, and often at times as a matter of penalty, because the peasants were not able to deliver their food grains on the dates and at the places which were notified by the government. They were paid much less, as some penalty had to be deducted from the procurement prices. If we keep those facts in mind, we would be able to realize how unreasonable it is that our government should be sleeping as it were during the last 8 or 9 months, while the prices have been sagging, have been falling and falling very rapidly. If they were to look into their own statistics, which are not quite satisfactorily collected for all those areas where the depression is having its worst possible effect, they will find, sir, that the prices have gone down by more than 30%. In many places, they have even gone down by more than 50%. And yet, all that the government are able to offer us today is to tell us that in the case of certain commodities, they are prepared to purchase certain quantities at certain specified prices. Stop.